My question here is, I'm going to shift it a little bit more to the draft. This gives us a chance to kind of talk about just a little both of our teams. What do you think the top 5 picks in the draft are going to be? So, if you can focus on, I'll let you focus on one team specifically if you want to focus on one, or if you kind of have. I know we'll talk more about the draft like in full, like when it gets to that. But I'm just interested right now what you guys think about the draft and like the first few picks of the draft are going to be.
I'll go first because I know the least about college ball, and I'll just stick it to this. You said like stick with one team. I'm going to focus on our Pats, Keenan. I think the Giants take a QB. All right, and I think maybe Carter falls to us. I think maybe Abdul Carter falls to us. And you would think the Cleveland Browns take a QB.
Either that or the Titans. The
Titans
so like.
So then that's the problem there. Maybe the Titans just straight up take Abdul Carter number 1. I think they should. I mean, why not? You know what I mean? I don't think Levis is anything great, but he's also like, why not stick with him for one more year or trade out of that spot? But if not, if you're going to take a QB there, all right, go ahead. And then that's the crazy thing. Okay, let's say the Titans take a QB there. Then what do the Browns and Giants do there at 2 and 3? Giants can't take Abdul Carter.
I mean,
they could,
like,
but I mean,
they wouldn't need it. Like the Giants really should be in the Travis Hunter business. Like that's really what they should be in. Either that or they should be in the Shedeur Sanders business. But like essentially, to be honest with you, if I was the Giants, if you don't have 100% faith in Shedeur Sanders as your quarterback of the future, I think Cam Ward's gone within the first 2 picks. That's exactly what I say. If Travis Hunter goes 2, I would trade back. And I would say whoever, like if one of these other 30, really 28 teams, 29 teams probably one of them might want Shedeur Sanders. And you could maybe figure out a package for that or figure out something. Or even if you're just swapping with the Patriots.
Can I add to that? Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Let's say Rodgers does go to the Steelers, right? Next week we turn around, Rodgers signs with the Steelers, and the Giants say, okay, we're signing Russ. Then what? You're not signing Russ to a 4-year deal to be your quarterback of the future. He's obviously a bridge QB. Then what are you doing? You getting a 2nd-round QB? Are you getting Shedeur or Cam? You're probably not getting Cam there, but let's say Shedeur. You're getting Shedeur at 3. I think that's what makes the most sense for them. Unless, again, like you said, if the Titans take a QB number 1, I feel like that almost fucks the whole draft. Not fucks the whole draft up for everybody, but it shakes it up for everybody.
Yeah. Timmy, I'm going to let you go because this is your team, and I'll get your thoughts on it.
I'll give you the top 5 picks right now.
I'd love it.
Here's how it should go. If every team is sane, the Titans need a QB. They haven't done any QB work right now. They haven't signed any free agents. In fact, they let Mason Rudolph go. The only one they have is Will Levis. They're taking a QB. They're taking Cam Ward, number 1.
Yep.
Number 2 is Abdul Carter. They're going to let him roll opposite side of Myles Garrett, and it's probably going to work. They're probably going to have a great defense because of it.
Disgusting.
Number 3 will be Shedeur, and it'll be to the Giants because, like Kyle said, the Giants will not sign Aaron Rodgers, and they'll probably lose out on Russell Wilson either way. I think that the Giants want to sign a QB so that they don't have to draft one this year and they can wait. I think the Giants like Jackson Dart, and I think that they think they can get him in the 2nd round. So if they sign Russ, get Jackson in the 2nd round, then they can go Travis Hunter here, but I don't think that happens, and I think they take Shedeur. The 4th pick will be Travis Hunter, which is the Patriots.
Yeah.
Which is a damn good cornerback duo with Gonzalez and
they just got Carlton Davis too. So you got Christian Gonzalez,
Carlton
Davis, and Travis Hunter.
You'll have a lockdown back end because they're going to
average 7.9 points per game.
7.9 catches
passing yards per game, and it'll all be to running backs.
And then obviously they, I keep forgetting the defensive tackle's name that they just signed, but
from the Eagles.
Yeah, they paid him big money there too.
Too much money. That's a classic. That's a classic Patriots signing right there. Take a guy that nobody knows and pay him $26 million a year.
Hey, he had a big Super Bowl.
Pats used to get him on the cheap, though. That's the thing. We used to get him on the cheap.
It'll work.
We used to sit out. We used to sit out free agency till like the next week.
I do like the Patriots. They've made a lot of moves. Harold Landry, I think that's a good signing. The guy you just brought up is a good signing. Even if I think he's overpaid, he will be an impact player for them. So I think they go defense. And then the 5th pick, to be honest with you, off the top of my head, don't know who the 5th pick is, but it should be Will Campbell. I think he's the best offensive lineman.
Oh, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I think it's the Jags at
really?
5. And I think it's the Jags at 5, and I want to say, like, for me, it might be that or it might be McMillan.
I think, I could see McMillan. I don't know if they're willing to go wide receiver back-to-back like they did because they took Brian Thomas last year.
It wouldn't be bad.
It really wouldn't. But this team's got a lot of problems. They already got a one, so I think they're willing to roll the dice with what they got, is what I think. They can use an offensive line. They could use any defensive piece, and that would work too. So that's my top 5.
Can y'all answer, actually, real quick, Keem, before you go? And I don't want to spend too much time on this. Maybe you guys could just give me a quick response to this. But I don't know if you guys agree with me. I've mentioned it a few times. I think the Browns do have playoff talent. Just around that roster, aside from the QB, they have playoff talent in my eyes, right? Why wouldn't they try to get a haul for number 2? Trade out of number 2, maybe try to get whoever at QB, whether it's later in the draft. But why not try to get a haul and kind of round out that team? Maybe get a veteran quarterback, maybe Kirk Cousins, whoever. But why not try to round out more? You got an experienced head coach, got an experienced team. You just got nothing at QB right now. I just think that's a team that if you slot in a QB and maybe that's a Shador team. I don't know. I just think they're a competent QB away from at least competing in that division.
Timmy, you go, and then I'll respond to that.
I agree with that. I think that they are pretty much a quarterback away, maybe a running back because Chubb is a free agent, I believe. So, they have an okay wide receiver core with Jerry Jeudy, and I forget the other guy's name that was on the concussion protocol for about 6 months this year, but he was balling when he was playing. So add them all together with Njoku, they can definitely have an offense that works. And the defense is perennially pretty good. So, like you said, they are kind of that fringe playoff team. If a quarterback comes in like Russell Wilson, maybe makes them a playoff team. The problem with trading this pick is, other than Abdul Carter and maybe Travis Hunter, there's really nobody you want to trade up for that you couldn't just trade up to like 5 or 6 to get. Nobody's trading up to get a QB, I don't think, because not a lot of people are viewing Shador as this next generational QB. The way that some teams are viewing Cam Ward is that nobody's going to be willing to trade a 2 to get that. And Abdul Carter would be the other piece. Is like, if somebody really wanted Abdul Carter, I could see them making that trade for it. But just one guy, it kind of locks a franchise in. You know, there's probably 16 franchises that don't need a defensive end this year in this draft, or at least don't need to pay a bunch of picks to go up and get one.
So. Yeah, so like, and I piggybacking off of that because I agree with pretty much everything you just said, was like, they would have to do like maybe with like the Panthers, if they traded up for 2 and they're like, hey, we want Travis Hunter. So like, hey, we can get a guy who can help out Bryce Young, and then also we can get a guy who can help us defensively, and they have the 8th pick. I do think that that's something that the Browns should think about, because defensively, they have a good defense for sure. You kept Myles Garrett, so that means you have a generational end there already. So like that alone makes you have a good defense. And then offensively, you guys have some pieces. The offensive line's not bad by any means. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy showed out towards the back half of last season. You could trade that pick away, and I do think that would be something that they should do, because next year's draft is a much more talented draft than this one. But as Timmy was saying, the tough thing about this year's draft is Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and then it's hard because like Cam Ward and Shador Sanders probably are your 5th and 6th or 7th quarterbacks taken off of like Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. I think all 4 of those quarterbacks, and there's one more I'm forgetting. I think there's one more guy I'm forgetting too that I think all would have probably gone. I didn't say that was the one I didn't say. Jaden Daniels. I think all 5 of those guys go before Cam. The only one maybe not, but before Cam Ward would be Bo Nix if you're going into Penix. Last year. Or Penix, one of the 2. I mean, I don't know. The Falcons would have had to get him. The Falcons might have valued him more. But
you might have traded up to get
They might have traded up, but I think Cam Ward would have been after those big three. He would have been at best 4, and I think Shador Sanders would have been at best 6. So I think that's kind of the difficult thing. But you're right, Kyle, in that line of thinking. And I agree, Timmy. I'm just gonna quickly say this. It'll take 2 seconds.
I just had a dumbass comment, Keenan, when you said generational end. The first thing that came to my mind was generational ass. I don't know why that came to my mind. When you said generational end, that's the first thing that came to my mind. So keep going.
I thought you were gonna give a person comparison to that too, and I was like, okay.
I'm sure I can think of something ridiculous.
That Nikki, man, Kim K, generational, but generational. But I pretty much agree with exactly what you have as your 5. I think Cam Ward's going 1. I think it's going to be either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at 2. And then I think whoever doesn't go 2 is going 4. And then I do think Shador goes 3. And then at 5, it's either McMillan or they go tackle. But that one depends on me. But I think the Patriots end up with Carter or Hunter. I do think that's probably how it goes.
I think that if the Giants end up signing Rodgers or Russell, that they don't take a QB.
Oh, absolutely not.
I think they're viewing this as a 2 or 3 year deal to one of these two guys that is a bridge to find the QB in a later draft.
They might if they
should trade down.
There's a chance if they take Wilson. I think if they were to sign Rodgers, there's a 0% chance.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a good point. But I think either way, they're viewing them as a bridge QB for the next 2 or 3 years. I don't think that this is a Falcons thing where they just signed a guy and they're going to go draft a guy like that. Mm-hmm. So my hope is that they sign Russell Wilson. We win 7 games this year, whatever. I don't care. Then they move back to 6 or 7 because somebody might be willing to move up to 3 to take Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter from the Patriots because that can be a thing. Whoever doesn't go at 2 is probably going at 3 or 4. So I could see that happening, move back. Like you said, maybe the Panthers, and that would be a perfect spot to take an offensive lineman here or a defensive player, do whatever they need. They don't necessarily, yes, they need QB. I don't think Shador is going to be the savior. So,
yeah, no, and next year you've got, obviously, Arch Manning's in next year's draft, Drew Aller from Penn State, and then you've got Garrett Nussmeier from LSU, or I may pronounce his name wrong, but you've got quarterbacks next year, you got Caleb Downs next year, so if you need a corner, if you need a corner next year, you got your guy. But yeah, all right, Kyle. Next question, or what do you think?
This is what you think, and this is going right off the draft, right? And we kind of alluded to it in all of our answers that there could just be so many different ways. Not only this top 5 goes, but obviously the rest of the draft takes place after the top 5. They go to the rhythm of what happens in the top 5. So, could this be the most exciting draft of the last 5 years? Or this will be, if I'm going to put it in a statement form, this will be the most exciting draft of the last 5 years.
So I guess yes and no. It's hard for me to think about drafts 3-4 years ago, but I think probably I'm gonna say no, just because I'm thinking of last year's draft at this time. We thought Caleb was going 1, but there was a little murmurs about maybe Jaden, but most likely it was gonna be Caleb at 1. We didn't know who was going to be 2. We didn't know who was going to be 3, whether it was going to be Jaden, Drake, May. And then there was a lot of other quarterback talent, and I think quarterback talent makes it interesting. I think this year, because there's the lack of high-end talent other than 2 true blue-chip guys who you think are going to be superstars in the league, I think it's interesting because then now it's playing almost chess rather than who's going to take what superstar. It's this year it's kind of chess-like where it's okay, well, they could do this because there's not really much here. And I think it could be more of this year's draft could make next year's draft or the year after's draft even more interesting because of how people move their chess pieces. So I would say no, but I do think this year is interesting because of that aspect.
See, that's interesting because I think outside of Penix last year, I thought it was pretty much chalk. You know what I mean? I thought with Caleb, people were kind of murmuring, but I think overall, we knew Caleb was going to Chicago. I think really it was the 2-3 thing. I thought Jaden Daniels, Drake May was the mix-up. We didn't know what was going to happen or where they were going to go. But I thought for the most part, I don't know. I think there's so much indecision and so much like just weird teams, like having the Titans up top when they took Levis, 2 years ago now. I think it just leads for so much uncertainty, and I think it's going to be a weird and crazy draft. I do. Tim, what do you think?
I think the last thing you just said is exactly what I feel. I just went and briefly looked at the first 5-10 picks of all the drafts in the last 5 years. The thing that I saw there was a lot of those picks were like certainties, like Trevor Lawrence going 1. We knew that was going to happen. That wasn't a question mark. And then we had Joe Burrow going 1. That wasn't a question.
Kyler Murray going 1.
Yep,
that wasn't
exactly.
a question.
And then a lot of the other picks were just like, yeah, that's best player. Like Aiden Hutchinson falling, that's best player. That makes sense. This year, it's kind of like the top 5 picks could go, 10 different ways. It feels like we could get people trading up and taking different people. So I would say that this is going to be an exciting draft for sure because of the uncertainty. We have, 4 picks in the first 4 that we have really no idea which way they're going to go. Are the Titans kind of hold the key to the chaos here, because if they don't take Cam Ward, that kind of throws this whole draft like immediately. Kind of throws everything off. So because if they don't take him at 1, I could see somebody willing to trade up to 2 to get him before the Giants get him.
Now talking about this more, I think probably the one that I would say would be the Trevor Lawrence draft, if not this one. And the reason being is because Trevor Lawrence was 1, yes, of course. But then there was the Zach Wilson. It was the 49ers trading all the way up to get Trey Lance. And then it was the Bengals at 5, or they're going to get Penei Sewell. They're going to get Penei Sewell. They draft Jamar Chase, and it's like, wait, what? Everyone like me, I was like, why are we drafting Jamar Chase? And then 4 games in, I was like, oh, that's why they drafted Jamar
One
Chase.
game in, he was streaking down the sideline for a touchdown.
Like,
so.
Because in preseason 2, he was dropping passes, so people were like, who is this? And then like, what are we doing here? Because he didn't even play the year before. He just sat out. He's like, I don't need to do this. Like,
then we also had the Falcons taking Kyle Pitts all the way up at 4.
Yeah,
that was fun.
And I was going to say, that was at the time, that was like, oh my God, Kyle Pitts is going to be great. And even after year 1, it was like, he didn't get many touchdowns, but like the guy's getting yards and then did nothing. So like Waddle going 6. So I would say just off of like trying to remember, and then New England getting Mac Jones at 15, that was another big thing that we weren't sure if it was going to happen, if he was going to be whatever that. So I would say off of just looking, the 2021 draft would be there. But I do, because there's not blue chips in this draft that are, especially at the quarterback position, this is really intriguing because there's so much that movement that could be. So I actually, now that I think about it, probably this is the 21.
That's why I think this one's going to just be insane. I think it's going to be a memorable draft just because like there's no consensus. I've heard a case for just about every player for every team in that top 5, right? Outside of the QBs with like New England, right? But outside of that, like I've heard just about everything. Which usually means we're probably going to get a trade. I feel like we're going to get a trade that no one's even thinking about, no one's even talking about. I feel like someone's going to come out of nowhere with a crazy haul and try to get into that top 5, which would be insane because, like you guys said, there's no blue chippers, especially at QB. So,
no, like it is the
Abdul Carter,
because the 2 best players in the draft are not quarterbacks, but all 3 of the first 3 teams picking desperately need a quarterback. So that's where it comes. Where it comes into like you overpay for a quarterback because like Cam Ward's not 1-1 worthy on most quarterback years, and he's not the 1-1 in this draft. But like,
and that's where I think like you don't outsmart yourself and say fuck it, we'll roll it over. Like we're gonna be bad anyway. Let's just take the best player available. We'll take Abdul Carter number 1. Like I think that should always be your play, especially in this situation. We see this all the time in the NBA where you try to talk yourself this guy at number 1 when he's like, yeah, he's the best player this year, but he would be number 8. Like last year, Ricochet, he would have gone probably number 8 in most drafts, or number 15, something like that. He's a good prospect, don't get me wrong, but he's not number 1 in most drafts. Hop's got a great player in him, though. So it ended up being a really good pick for him. But
figure out what your team needs are, but when it comes to like that, just take the best guy and figure it out from there. No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Like when it comes to it, like obviously, like last year for the Patriots, who you could argue, oh, maybe Marvin Harrison's like the better prospect and things like that, who you take. But then also, Drake May was, even though there was a couple questions, he was a very highly touted prospect of like a guy like this quarterback should be a difference maker at the next level, and it's a need. Okay, let's go get him. That makes sense. But when you're at the Titans, you're like, we're rolling out Will Levis, so like we need to get a quarterback, but at the same time, I would have just tried to get one of these veteran guys and just said like, "Hey, Jacoby Brissett, come get us for a year," or "Hey, Will Levis, try to get us for a year, and let's go get ourselves an impact Abdul Carter, and let's go get or Travis Hunter." But yeah, I like that question, Kyle. I think now the more that I think about it, the more interesting I think this draft will be than others, and not because they're the best prospects. It's because it happens to be the worst draft of the last 5 when it comes to talent. And that's why it's going to be more interesting.